Well, hello there. My name is Mark Miles, and as many of you know, I love helping trainers, presenters really take their results to the next level. So, in today's video, I want to talk to you about a topic that we don't often really address very much as facilitators, coaches, and mentors. But ultimately, the response that we get is the result. The response that we get is the result. I'll say it again, the response that we get is the result of our communication, the quality of our communication. So, if we are looking to be great trainers, facilitators, and instructors overall, we really need to make sure that there is maximum comprehension of everything that we deliver. We need to make sure that everybody in the training room understands it to the level that we desire. And also, we need to make sure that they hear it or the audience hears it to the level and to the accuracy that we are looking to deliver it. So, I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you've said something to someone and they have heard something completely different to what you've actually said. And this is one of the challenges that a trainer faces. It's like, how do you get your message across so that everybody hears it accurately and in the way that you intend it? So if you're delivering a training to 100 people and say, only half the room understand it and only half the room do the task in the way that you have wanted them to do the task, well, you've kind of missed out half the room. And again, you're constantly looking to how do you deliver your content in a way that gets maximum understanding. So if you're delivering to 100 people understand it the way that you intend it. So in today's video, I want to share with you 9 tips. Now, I know that's a lot of tips, but I want to share with you 9 tips on how you can increase the probability that more people will understand your intended message and certainly understand it and go away and use it. We all know that that's the ultimate aim. But get ready, grab a pen and get ready to write. So the first tip, the first thing to remember is if you want maximum comprehension of your communication, number one is be flexible with your words. Be flexible with your words. And what we mean by that is many people are going to hear your words very differently. And many people are going to have different preconceived notions or ideas about what you are actually saying. And you need to be able to share your message or your instructions in many different ways so that people can hear it. And you need to be able to be flexible. What I mean by that is become a thesaurus. Become a thesaurus. So I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where somebody has asked you for help and you've explained it, and then they say, yes, but I still don't understand. Now, if you as a presenter, trainer, facilitator use exactly the same words to explain the point again, it's not going to land, it's not going to make any difference. So you need to be very flexible in how you deliver the information. So let's go an example. All right, the other day I went to the beach with my brother and sister. All right, what's another way to say that? The other day I went to the coastline with my siblings. Okay, now I know it's a crazy example, but I just wanted to illustrate that you can really develop a skill to be able to come up with multiple different words for exactly the same thing, because one way may not connect, another way may connect. All right, so you're constantly looking for what's the formula for connecting those ideas with the thoughts in your audience. Now, number two is repeat things. Repeat things, repeat things, repeat things. Now, what we mean by that is, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you've been giving instructions and someone says, oh, what was that page number again? Or what was that thing? Because often what happens is when we're in a training room, we're delivering training, people are still in their own minds and they're thinking about other things occasionally. So it can take a few moments for them to actually hear you. So the first time you say it, they are aware that a sound has been made. Then they hear it and register that it was from you. And then last of all, they hear that it's actually the instructions or the next thing that they need to know. So I really encourage all trainers and presenters to repeat instructions 3 times. All right, because you're going to hear you're going to have people in a training room that are hearing at different stages. Okay, so often it needs to be said 3 times. Next thing, give instructions in multiple different ways. What I mean by that is do it verbally, write it on the whiteboard, and potentially the flip chart, and potentially get them to write it down as well. Okay, and that's the same in a Zoom class as well. If you're going to give instructions on an activity, well, pop the instructions into the chat box as well. Pop the instructions into broadcast a message in break rooms. Look at giving it in multiple different ways so that if someone doesn't hear it, they can read it. If they can't read it, well, then they can hear it. And if they can't see it in one place, they can see it in another place or another place. Okay. So next one, coming back to repeating things. Now, this is a really important thing for trainers to be aware of. You see, the conscious mind needs to hear things multiple times before information goes from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. And researchers have even postulated around 19 plus times for someone to really remember something and retain it long-term. So I really want to encourage all of you to be looking at how many times can you repeat the same thing but do it in multiple different ways. So, for example, you could say that this is a big tree on the road and it's impacting traffic. The big tree that's on the road that's impacting traffic is really causing a lot of hassles for people. Now, as these people that are driving around this big tree that's on the road, and as they're trying to navigate the situation, the tree is really getting stuck in their mind, and they're wondering how they're going to deal with this problem of the tree. Full stop. And essentially, the more times that you can repeat key concepts and points throughout your delivery without saying big green tree, big green tree, big green tree, you're going to have a much more powerful and creative impact in the minds of your audience. Now, the next one is remembering the two tenets of communication. Now, that tenet is number one, that the quality of your communication comes back to the response that you get. All right, I'll say it again. The quality of your communication comes back to the response that you get. The second part of communication is this: people do not listen as fast as you talk. People do not listen as fast as you talk. So if you are communicating a message, you need to remember that you need to give the listener time to process that information. And if you want to maximize instruction of your content and maximize understanding of your content, you need to be willing to create moments of listening. You need to create moments where people have time to process the information. And a really great way to do that is get very good at full stops and check in. What I mean by that is intentionally increase the amount of pausing in your delivery. And by doing that, it's going to create mental pauses in the listener's mind so they actually can hear what you're actually saying. But if you talk, it's really going to put a lot of cognitive load on your audience members. So the way to do that would be, today we're going to look at some great stuff. It's going to really help you out. And we're first going to look at this thing. Then later on, we're going to look at that thing. Okay. Now, it may not be that pronounced, but having those full stops and that breath can really be a great gift that you give to your audience at strategic times throughout your training session. And you do want to check in with your learners as well, asking, does that make sense? Or what are you hearing from that conversation? What's the biggest thing that's standing out from you from that piece of content? In any way, shape, or form, checking in with your audience. Next one. One of my favorite phrases to use when delivering is definitely this one. It's called not yet, but in a moment. And I highly recommend you get into the practice and habit of using this expression. It is a game changer. It will transform how people receive your message. I'll say it again, not yet, but in a moment. Now, essentially, this is a phrase that we can use to stagger instructions. So, for example, if we want the class to stand up and move over to the left side of the room, if we said stand up and move over to the left side of the room, as soon as we start saying it, people are going to start to do it. But we need to be able to create a pause in between the here and the do. So a really powerful and simple way to do that is to simply say, not yet, but in a moment, we're going to stand up, we're going to move to the left side of the room, and we're going to do X, Y, Z. But if you don't use that expression of not yet, but in a moment, people are going to move too quickly and you will lose the room and you'll lose people's attention and focus. So it's a really powerful phrase. So, for example, not yet, but in a moment, we're going to jump into a breakout room and we're going to do X, Y, Z. Really powerful phrase. It's something that I'd recommend that you definitely integrate into your vocabulary and be using constantly before you do things and as you are giving instructions. Not yet, but in a moment. Not yet, but in a moment. We're going to head to the next one. So the next one is state things in the positive. State things in the positive. I'll say it again. State things in the positive. Now, what we mean by that is the unconscious mind cannot process a negative. So if you say, as we all know, if you say to a child, don't touch them, what does the child do? They start touching them. What if you say to a child, don't run? What does the child do? They start running faster, right? And as same kind of principle applies, if we are delivering training, we wouldn't want to say, don't be late, because we're planting in the negative seed there. If we say, don't look at page 15, but what does the student immediately do? Look at page 15. If we say, don't talk to the person, what do they start to do, right? So I really want to encourage all of you watching this video, learn to state your commands in the positive, okay? So focus on page 25. Let's focus on page 25. Let's focus on page 25. Come back from breaks on time, okay? Instead of don't be late from back from breaks, right? So constantly be looking to state your expectations in the positive. And this really shows up when you're giving instructions, because if you say to us, to an audience member, don't think about what you're doing on the weekend, let's focus on this, or, don't look at page 25, whatever it may be, immediately you are planting something in the audience's mind. As soon as you say a negative, you're going to find that the audience is going to be slightly inclined to do that. So state all your commands in the positive. And of course, just remember that you are setting the vibe for the training. So don't ever say, and hopefully you never do, don't ever say, today's training is going to be dull and boring and just bear with me as we go through this. Why would you say that? That's a stupid comment. Instead, say, today's session, you're going to get a lot from it. You're going to learn heaps and you're going to be able to go back to your workplace and really implement some cool stuff. All right? Say it in the positive. Why would you say the negative? Next one. Avoid getting people to multitask. Now, this is a bit of an interesting one, but we need to appreciate that the more cognitive load that's happening, the harder it is for people to actually concentrate and focus on doing whatever we are getting them to do. So I just want to encourage you to look for any times in your training when you're actually getting people to multitask and think, okay, am I getting them to focus on too much right now? And that leads on to the next point, which is avoid speaking while they are reading. Because what we need to understand is that neurologically, the parts of the brain that are activated when the people are trying to read and listen are exactly the same. So what we need to appreciate is if you are going to get people to read things, allow them time to read it, but I would love to say, yes, I'll say, shut up while they are reading something. Be quiet. Allow them time and space to read through the information and then speak again. Okay. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of trainers make. They put too much information in their audience's mind while they're trying to do something, and the audience member will eventually have a crack or a breakdown moment where they just can't take any more in. Okay. So those are some tips on how you can maximize comprehension of your content and maximize the probability that everybody's going to follow along in your instructions and do what you are asking them to do to the highest probability of success. All right. So hopefully those tips were valuable, and definitely start to look at how you can implement those concepts. Not yet, but in a moment, you're going to go away and you're going to start to think about all those key ideas that we've just gone through there. All right. So thanks so much for watching the video. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching the video and supporting the channel. And as I always say, the better you are as a trainer, the more your audience will benefit, and then their audiences benefit. And as a trainer, we know that we are creating a ripple effect in the world. The better we show up, the better the audience benefits, and so on and so on. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.